Your identity is the root of everything you allow, pursue, and manifest in your life. It's not just how you feel about yourself. It's what you believe you're capable of, what you think you're worthy of, and what you expect the world to deliver to you. Everything flows from that internal picture. If you've been seeing yourself through the lens of lack, failure, or mediocrity, then everything you attract and create will align with that vision. The problem isn't your job, your environment, or your bank account. The problem is how you define you. When a person sees themselves as unworthy, they subconsciously sabotage opportunities that require confidence. They hesitate, they second guess, they show up in rooms already convinced they don't belong, and so they leave before they've even been tested. But when you change how you see yourself, when you truly begin to believe that you belong, that you're called, that you're capable, everything changes. People respond differently to you. Rooms open up. Conversations shift. Favor flows where certainty grows. Your identity is not inherited by birth. It's forged by belief. You don't have to accept what life handed you as your lifelong truth. Just because your father struggled doesn't mean you have to. Just because you were raised around limitation doesn't mean you were designed to stay limited. You can choose to align yourself with something greater than the narrative you've been given. You have the authority to rewrite your story, but only if you reclaim the pen. The danger of a false identity is that it becomes your prison. You walk around inside a life that doesn't reflect your purpose, and yet you stay locked in because you think it's all you deserve. That's not humility, that's bondage. And the longer you wear a false label, the more normal it begins to feel. You start identifying with your struggles more than your strengths. You give more weight to your failures than your future. And every time you do, you reinforce a lie. True transformation doesn't begin with doing, it begins with becoming. You can chase new goals, build new habits, surround yourself with mentors, but if deep down you still believe you're not enough, all of it will eventually collapse. The internal must match the external. And without it, the house will always fall. When someone believes they are destined for greatness, they make different decisions. They don't waste time in confusion. They don't entertain distractions. They don't tolerate disrespect. Why? Because they've calibrated their actions to a higher internal standard. They've decided they are worth more, and so they require more from themselves and from others. That kind of internal shift doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you intentionally confront the lies that have shaped your self-perception. You go back to the voices that told you you weren't enough. You examine the moments that wounded your self-worth, and then you replace them with truth, not just motivational fluff, but real, undeniable truth that affirms your value, your identity, and your assignment in this life. The way you see yourself becomes the blueprint for how others treat you. If you show up small, people will respond accordingly. If you speak as if you're unsure of your voice, they'll question your credibility. But when you walk into a room knowing you carry value, people notice, they feel it, and many times they'll treat you better because you gave them permission to. You teach the world how to treat you based on how you treat yourself. If you accept scraps, the world won't offer you a feast. If you speak like a beggar, the world won't listen like you're a king. But when you speak with conviction, stand with dignity, and carry yourself with certainty, the atmosphere changes. People adjust to your identity, not the other way around. This is why surface level change is never enough. You can change your wardrobe, your routine, your relationships, but until you change your identity, you will keep recreating the same reality. You'll upgrade your outer world for a season, but your inner world will pull you right back to where your belief system lives. That's why people sabotage success. They reach the level they didn't believe they deserved. A person who knows who they are does not panic in pressure. They don't buckle under criticism. They don't chase after validation because they carry internal confirmation. They are not arrogant. They are rooted. And that rootedness gives them peace in storms, clarity in chaos, and direction in darkness. Because when you know who you are, nothing external can redefine you. Too many people live based on what others called them instead of what they were created to be. The labels people threw at you, failure, lazy, broken, not enough, were lies spoken in ignorance, pain, or fear. But if you accepted those labels, even unknowingly, they began to build your identity. It's time to peel those labels off and reintroduce yourself to yourself. But the truth is, you've always been more than they said. You've always carried potential that couldn't be measured by grades, jobs, or titles. There's a version of you that exists beyond the trauma, beyond the insecurity, beyond the environment you came from. That version is waiting not to be created, but to be revealed through belief. When your identity is anchored in truth, no failure can disqualify you. You'll take risks others fear. You'll walk through doors others don't see, not because you're better, but because you're aligned. You've finally matched your internal vision with your external assignment. You've recognized that the greater danger isn't failing, it's forgetting who you were designed to be. Every choice you make flows from your identity. How you manage money, how you handle relationships, how you pursue opportunities, all of it is shaped by how you see yourself. That means if you want lasting change, you must do more than set goals. You must redefine who you believe you are. Your language shifts when your identity changes. You stop saying, I hope, and start saying, I will. You stop asking, am I worthy, and start declaring, I'm ready. That shift in vocabulary reflects a shift in posture. And when your posture changes, the world begins to respond to the new standard you've set. The truth is, you've always had greatness in you. It's not something you have to earn. It's something you must uncover. Your identity is not built by accident. It is shaped by the truth you believe and the lies you reject. The more truth you embrace, the more power you reclaim. And once you see yourself differently, you will never settle for less. Most people misdiagnose the source of their stagnation. They assume the barrier is money, credentials, or connections, yet those are merely symptoms. The true obstacle is the invisible ceiling they've agreed to in their minds. The unspoken belief that their reach should be shorter than their vision. When you believe resources are scarce, you stop searching for them. Your senses dull to opportunity, and what was once a fertile field looks like barren ground. Lack becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, not because the provisions disappeared, but because your perception blinded you to their presence. A limiting belief operates like a thermostat in a room. The temperature of your life may rise through hard work or a lucky break, but the internal setting quietly pulls everything back to the level you secretly believe you deserve. Until you reset that dial, every push for progress will trigger an equal pull toward the familiar. Scarcity thinking thrives on comparison. It whispers, they started richer, smarter, luckier, and you nod in quiet resignation. Yet comparison is a crooked ruler. It measures only the heights of others while hiding the depths of your own potential. You can't build higher when the tool you use keeps shrinking you in its shadow. Somewhere there are limiting beliefs like armor, convinced the suit is protective humility. But humility isn't denying your capacity. It's acknowledging the source of your capacity and stewarding it boldly. False humility masks fear, and fear disguised as virtue still cages you. Every excuse has a root, and that root is usually a belief adopted long before the current challenge. Perhaps it arrived as a parent's sigh, a teacher's offhand comment, or a friend's mocking laugh. Words planted seeds, and unchecked seeds grew silent vines around your ambition. You reinforce a limiting belief each time you justify playing small. Statements like, I'm just not a people person, or money isn't my thing, institutionalize mediocrity. The mind obeys the narratives it hears most often, and repetition turns preference into perceived fact. Opportunity does not vanish, it moves to the corner of your vision where your disbelief can't see it. The moment you label an idea impossible, your brain obliges by filtering out the paths that could make it possible. What looks like fate is often selective attention. Beliefs also dictate endurance. Two individuals face the same setback. One quits, citing lack of talent. The other persists. Convinced mastery is earned. Skill grows where belief gives it permission to practice without the fear of final judgment. Wealth flows toward belief in value creation. If you secretly think selling is manipulation, you'll unconsciously sabotage every pitch. The issue isn't the product. It's the assumption that exchanging value for money is inherently suspect. Correct the assumption, and ethical abundance becomes a byproduct. Relationships mirror internal ceilings. Someone convinced they are unlovable filters every gesture through suspicion. Compliments feel like pity. Loyalty seems temporary, and soon even genuine care snaps under the weight of disbelief. The lack of love they feared becomes the reality they create. A limiting belief rewrites history in its favor. It cites past failures as evidence of permanent limitation, ignoring the countless skills quietly acquired in the process. It catalogs only defeats, never the lessons that emerged from them, ensuring the narrative remains bleak. The marketplace rewards those who solve problems others won't touch. Yet if you believe you're underqualified, you'll surrender the stage to lesser minds who simply possess stronger conviction. Competence grows through engagement. Credibility follows contribution. Education without belief is information in captivity. Courses, mentors, and books can load your mind with strategy, but implementation stalls when internal permission is denied. It's not new knowledge you need, it's emancipation from the beliefs that forbid using what you already know. Vision fights for airtime against inner scripts of limitation. Each time vision speaks possibility, the script counters with precedent, reminding you of past missteps and limited resources. Decide which voice receives the microphone, because the louder one will narrate your future. Limiting beliefs often masquerade as pragmatism. I'm just being realistic sounds wise, yet it is sometimes the anthem of fear dressed in logic. True realism accounts for growth potential. Pessimistic realism freezes people in their present capacity and calls it prudence. Breaking free starts with scrutiny. Trace the recurring excuse back to its first echo. Identify who authored that script and ask whether their authority merits lifelong obedience. Many internal rules crumble under the weight of a single honest question. The most powerful resources, creativity, faith, resilience, are never in short supply. They expand as you use them, proving lack was an illusion projected by a guarded mind unwilling to risk release. You were not born to wait your turn in line while others decide your worth. You were not designed to tiptoe through life hoping someone would tap you on the shoulder and tell you it's finally okay to be great. There is something deeply wrong with a system that convinces powerful people to ask for permission to be who they already are. You were created with purpose, not for permission. From the moment you were formed, you carried within you a unique assignment. That assignment did not come with a request form. It did not include a permission slip. It came with authority. But over time, the world taught you to doubt that authority. It taught you to shrink, to play it safe, to wait for affirmation before activation. Many people never start because they're waiting to be validated by voices that don't even value them. They wait for support from family members who've never supported themselves. They wait for applause from friends who are terrified of their own potential. They wait for a boss, a coach, a mentor, anyone just to say, yes, you can. But purpose doesn't wait for permission. It moves with conviction. There's a moment in every person's life when they must decide to step without a cheerleader, build without a blueprint, and speak without a crowd. That moment separates the remembered from the forgotten. The difference is not talent, It's the willingness to act as if permission has already been granted. You don't need a title to make impact. You don't need a degree to create transformation. You don't need an invitation to rise. Too many people disqualify themselves because they don't fit a mold that was never meant to contain them. The most powerful people are often the ones who refuse to conform to rules that had nothing to do with their purpose. Every time you hesitate because you're afraid of what people will think, you delay someone's breakthrough that was tied to your obedience. Someone's answer is trapped in your silence. Your gift wasn't given for your comfort. It was given to confront darkness, to unlock freedom, to build bridges where others only saw barriers. When you know you were created with purpose, your posture changes. You stop asking, is this okay? And start declaring, this is necessary. You stop seeking consensus and start walking in clarity. Purpose isn't democratic. It doesn't require everyone's agreement to be true. It only requires your yes. People will be uncomfortable when you stop asking for their approval. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're arrogant. But what they're really saying is, you no longer need my permission to shine. And that threatens people who are still waiting to be chosen instead of realizing they were born chosen. There is no system, no culture, no tradition that can cancel what's embedded in your design. They can delay it, distract it, resist it, but they cannot destroy it. Purpose is indestructible when it's embraced. The only way it stays dormant is if you deny it, suppress it, or hand it over to someone else's opinion. Some of the most impactful voices in history were silenced, mocked, misunderstood, but they still moved. They didn't wait to be accepted. They decided to be effective. Purpose doesn't wait for a platform. It builds one. And sometimes it builds it in silence, in obscurity, in the dark, until the time is right. You don't need everyone to understand you. You only need to understand what you carry. When you grasp that your assignment is not up for debate, you'll stop having conversations with people who aren't qualified to speak into your calling. You'll protect your vision from opinions that dilute your direction. Waiting for permission becomes a trap when the gatekeepers you're waiting on don't even recognize your gate. Some people will never see what's in you because they're too focused on what's familiar to them. Stop waiting for them to see what only you are shown. Purpose isn't always visible. It's often revealed through movement. Authority is not arrogance, it's alignment. When you walk in purpose, you're not elevating yourself above others, you're aligning yourself with the truth of your design. That alignment speaks louder than any introduction. You won't have to announce yourself. Your fruit will speak. There's a confidence that comes when you stop outsourcing your decisions to the crowd. You stop pivoting every time someone disapproves. You stop apologizing for being called, and you start executing on what you know is yours to build, whether or not it's popular, convenient, or understood. The longer you wait for someone to validate what's already in you, the longer you delay the manifestation of it. Purpose doesn't become real when others believe in it. It becomes real when you do. That belief is the trigger. That belief is the spark. It's not about ego. It's about agreement. When you agree with your assignment, you unlock power. The world does not need more people asking for permission. It needs more people moving with precision. The world shifts when people stop second-guessing their voice, their vision, their value, and begin to walk like they were sent, not like they stumbled in. There are ideas inside of you that no one else will carry. There are messages only your voice can deliver. There are lives on the other side of your courage. Every day you delay because you're still looking over your shoulder for someone to nod their head is another day the world misses out on the impact you were meant to bring. The sooner you stop asking, the sooner you start becoming. Purpose doesn't knock, it already lives in you. The question is, are you ready to act like it? Change never begins with circumstances, it begins with vision. And the first place that vision must transform is the mirror. Until the person staring back at you changes, nothing else truly will. You can relocate, renovate, or rebrand, but if the reflection hasn't shifted, you'll end up repeating the same cycles in different surroundings. Most people are waiting for external conditions to shift before they believe they're ready to evolve. They think if they get the money, the opportunity, the partner, then they'll finally become confident, decisive, and bold. But transformation doesn't work backward. It begins when you change how you see yourself, when the internal perception upgrades before anything outside of you does. You can't fake alignment in the mirror. You can smile for the world, posture for approval, dress the part, but the mirror sees the hesitations, the doubts, the inner scripts that contradict the image you're trying to present. And until you confront those scripts, your outer world will always remain a reflection of your inner one. People invest so much time trying to improve their image without ever improving their identity. They master performance but ignore perception. They learn how to act strong without learning how to be strong. But the mirror doesn't respond to acting, it responds to authenticity. If you lie to yourself long enough, you'll start to believe the lie is your truth. The mirror holds the truth you've been avoiding. It shows you the gap between who you've settled into and who you were created to be. And that gap cannot be closed through external hustle alone. It requires radical honesty and the courage to admit that the problem isn't always out there. It's often in the version of yourself you've been protecting out of fear. Real change begins when you stop blaming and start owning. When you look in the mirror and stop saying, they held me back, or life's unfair, and start saying, I've played small, I've doubted myself, I've tolerated less than I deserve. Ownership is the key that unlocks transformation. Without it, you're stuck in a cycle of reaction, not creation. The most powerful decision you'll ever make is to stop waiting for someone else to fix what you're called to change. And that change starts with the person brushing their teeth in the morning. The person who's been surviving instead of thriving, coasting instead of commanding. The mirror doesn't lie. It simply reflects what you've believed long enough to embody. You were not created to reflect limitation, insecurity, or inferiority. But if that's what you believe, it will show in your posture, your language, your relationships, your income, and your impact. Identity leaks into everything. The words you speak over yourself echo long after you've said them, and the mirror remembers them all. The reason people struggle to break through isn't because they're incapable, it's because they haven't yet seen themselves as capable. The mirror only reflects what your mind allows. If your mind is filled with memories of failure, you'll project that failure into the present. But when your mind becomes filled with vision, the reflection starts to rise. You cannot outperform the image you carry of yourself. Even if you win for a moment, you'll eventually retreat to the level you believe you belong. That's why change without internal agreement never lasts. You have to become the person who can handle the breakthrough before the breakthrough arrives. When you wake up and begin to see royalty in the mirror, everything changes. You stop tolerating nonsense. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop shrinking in rooms you were born to lead, because the mirror no longer shows a fragmented, fearful version of you. It shows someone who remembers who they are. This isn't about ego, it's about identity. There is a difference between pride and power. Pride inflates the ego to compensate for the absence of self-worth. Power, on the other hand, flows from a grounded understanding of purpose. And that kind of power begins when you meet yourself in the mirror and stop flinching at what you see. The mirror reveals the person who's been hiding behind perfectionism, procrastination, and performance. That person doesn't need fixing, they need permission to emerge. Beneath the fear and hesitation is a force the world hasn't seen yet, waiting to be activated by belief. Most people don't fear failure, they fear exposure. They fear the mirror might prove that the potential they've been running from is real and that stepping into it would demand a version of them they've never had to be before. But until you're willing to face that version, you'll stay loyal to limitation. Every breakthrough begins with a confrontation. Not with the world, but with the reflection. That's where you get honest about what you've avoided. That's where you release the narratives that no longer serve you. It's where you stop asking for permission and start declaring, this is who I am now. You don't need to fix the mirror, you need to fix the filter. The filter that says you're not enough, that says your past defines you, that says your voice doesn't matter. Those filters distort the image, but the image itself was always powerful. The real you has never been broken, just buried beneath layers of disbelief. The work isn't becoming someone else, it's becoming you, fully, authentically, boldly, not the edited version, not the safe version. The mirror is waiting for you to stop performing and start becoming. And the moment you decide to see truth over fear, potential over pain, and power over passivity, that's the moment the world begins to change with you. The external victories, the promotions, the platforms, they're all secondary. The real victory is when the mirror finally reflects the person you were always meant to be. Because when you win in the mirror, you've already won in life. You were never designed to just get by, to barely make it, or to live on the edge of burnout. You were created with the capacity for overflow, abundance in purpose, peace, provision, and power. But somewhere along the way, survival became the